Hello everybody and welcome to this video. Our topic today is the first chapter of Motivating Learners in the Classroom by Gavin Reid, The Foundations of Learning. In this presentation, we will comment on planning for learning and the importance of developing effective and independent learning, dependence and independence and the role of the system. Then we will see how learning takes all of you, the need to recognize individual differences and diversity among the learners. And lastly, we will talk about the metacognitive aspect of learning based on the work of Vygotsky. So, let's get started.
Here, the first topic that we are going to talk about is planning for learning, which more or less talk about the aim of the book, which is to inform teachers on learning habits and strategies based on individual needs and preferences. This will help to encourage students to develop their own effective learning techniques so they can maximize their time efficiently and be rewarded for their effort. It is necessary to help learners develop independent and autonomous learning. The following topic is developing effective learning. Here we have the comparison of a house and the develop of effective learning, which are more or less the same. Why? Because both need individual thoughts, as well as the house needs the bricks, and require solid foundations. The text says that the developing effective learning is like building a house. A house consists of individual bricks and requires solid foundation, otherwise it would collapse when under strain. Learning is the same. If the foundation for learning are not in place, the learner will have difficulty when coming across new and challenging learning tasks. Here we have how to make them feel secure. The text talks that we feel secure in a house, so we have to make the learning a place so they can be sure and comfortable with. The following topic is developing independent learning. Independent learning is one of the most important indicators that effective learning has taken place. If a learner can work independently, that means that they have understood the task.
Dependence and independence, the role of the system. The education that we receive shapes our learning preferences, and that is why there are people who are unable to work through a problem by themselves. This may be because the type of education that they receive made them dependent on others. Thankfully, nowadays the curriculum allows problem-solving activities. But what are problem-solving activities? They are the key to independent learning. This type of activities involve making, thinking, and justifying your decisions. And this is to encourage students to develop understanding of their learning processes and being more effective through solving problems. Learning takes all of you. There are different styles of learning and an assumption that each person has a preferred mode of learning. An indicator of a person's cognitive and environmental preferences might be visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And there are also factors such as attention, memory, and environmental aspects that has to do with the time of the day, the light, the background noise, and classroom seating arrangements. It is important for us to ensure that students know that there is no fixed way of processing information, because learning is a total experience. It involves all the senses. Individual differences and diversity. It is crucial for us to acknowledge individual differences in learning, because students will have individual preferences. It is important to cater for all the diverse needs that a student might have, and and to acknowledge the intellectual, cognitive, and cultural differences when we plan. The importance of theory. There are various theories on how children learn. Among them, there are some common strands to consider. For example, if the students understand the requirements of a task, if when we plan, they can identify the key points and main ideas, and in the part of the action, they need to have the resources and skills to carry out the task. And then transfer for learning, it means that they have previous learning. The previous learning that they have should help them to plan strategies for tackling the new tasks. It's a teacher's responsibility to ensure that a task is achievable. That is why the importance of the theory has these 4 points into consideration. And other considerations to take into account is to anticipate problems that a student might have. We have to accumulate knowledge on individual learning experiences, and we also have to differentiate the task through presentation and outcomes, and we have to assist students in taking responsibility for their own learning and being able to monitor their own progress. Learning is a process. It takes time, it requires a period of consolidation, and it's more effective with familiar content, with content that the students already know. Learning is also holistic and in long term.
Our last topic today is learning of theory and the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development and the need to scaffold learning have influenced classroom practices. According to Vygotsky theory, there is a significant difference between what a learner can achieve unaided as compared with a situation where there is a teacher present interacting with a learner. He also says that there are some skills and knowledge that are attainable given a learner's current knowledge at that time. That is the zone of proximal development. At the same time, there are some skills and knowledge that cannot be attained by the learner because his or her level. Maybe he or she is not at that stage of preparedness to understand, to absorb these new skills or knowledge. One of the key aspects of effective teaching is to ensure that a learner is presented with tasks within his or her zone of proximal development. Vygotsky also talks about scaffolding, that it is processes of support that are needed to allow a learner to reach the next stage in his or her learning. This consists on a series of steps that help the learner reach their required level, that will facilitate understanding rather than competence. So this means that to achieve learning, we need to present tasks just out of the ability range of our learners. And these challenging tasks will promote maximum cognitive growth in our learners. So here we have some suggestions for scaffolding. First, we have introductory activities that are essential learning activities. They provide the means for understanding new learning. For instance, we have the pre-task discussion. We also have recap activities. These activities are important for effective learning. These should highlight the key points, so we allow learners to identify the main points in a new piece of learning. We have to have in mind that it is also important to allow time to revisit previous work and draw on prior knowledge. Then we have bridge building activities. One of the most essential aspects of learning is the skill in making connection. Effective learning depends on a great extent on how readily a learner can make connection between the ideas and the content of the material to be learned, and also between the new learning and the previous learning. Then we have using to prevent losing. It is important that a learner has opportunities to practice the knowledge and skills gained from new learning. It is this practice that leads to automaticity, and it is automaticity that demonstrates that the learner has acquired competence and will be able to use this new skill to help with the new learning. And lastly, we have consolidation activities. These are essential activities and are part of a process that can lead to automaticity. Scaffolding, therefore, is the process by which a teacher has to respond appropriately to a learner's behavior in a new learning situation. Well, and that's the end of this chapter about the foundations of learning. To conclude this presentation, I want to say that it is important to recognize the role of both the foundations of learning and the teacher-learner interaction throughout the learning process. This should help to equip learners with a self-knowledge of learning, and it is which promotes independence and an effective way of learning. That concludes our presentation today. Goodbye and thank you for your attention.